Okay, everyone, welcome to an episode of On Point EDC. Today I have a really cool review for you guys from the brand Chris Reeve Knives. A little about them. These are, of course, made in the USA. And the brand was founded in 1984 in Durham, South Africa, now proudly based in Boise, Idaho. This market segment is definitely high-end to luxury status. And in terms of the type of knife, this is a titanium frame lock folding knife. So when you think of a frame lock, it actually originates from this brand, Chris Reeves. So it's also known as the Chris Reeves style or the Reeves integral lock. And it's essentially an evolution of the Walker liner lock, where you're going to have a titanium handle and an integrated frame lock. This knife that we'll be looking at today is the Umnumzaan, and it's with the drop point blade configuration with the glass bead blasted handle scales. Now, Umnumzaan means the boss in Zulu, and in every sense of the definition, it's a knife deserving of respect. And it also does feature a unique glass breaker while closed, amongst other features. Now, these are not cheap knives like most other Chris Reeve knives and most made in America knives today, but this one has quite a reputation, along with, of course, the Sebenza that we have there. You can see it's a small Sebenza, and it looks tiny by comparison, and I consider the small Sebenza a perfect knife. So what do you get when you go searching for something beyond perfection? And I think that's the Zaan, guys. You know, the cool thing here is I was actually on the list for the small Sebenza, but I had already purchased it through a dealer by the time my turn had came up in terms of allocations. So when they did reach out, I asked if I could have my allocation changed to a Zaan, and to my surprise, they obliged, and I was able to pick up this model here. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now before we dive in, quick customary wristwatch check. Ooh, yes, the Seiko Prospex Marine Master SLA 079. If you guys are new to the channel, you're here for the knife, just know that I typically focus on watch reviews. And in a way, this kind of fits within that, because this is the big daddy of, Chris Reeve knives, and this is kind of the big daddy of Seiko divers. Quite legendary, and not a piece that you start out with. Definitely something you kind of graduate to after appreciating a brand like Seiko for many, many years. Now, let's see, guys. This is a full-size knife. Now, no, it's not huge. I mean, if this was a fixed blade, I'd consider it quite small. But as a folding knife, it is relatively large. But first, before we get into that, let's actually take a look at it against my, this is pretty much one of my most EDC'd knives. Now, this is the small Sebenza. It is an Insingo, and it does have this beautiful black micarta inlay. Also does have that glass blasted finish, which I prefer over that original sandblast. And I have to say, guys, this is a perfect knife for me, and it fits in the hand great. But if we kind of hold it up here and take a look, maybe we'll line it up pivot to pivot, you can see there's quite a bit more blade and quite a bit more handle. So although this is, again, for me, perfection, it is overall just a smaller, more compact and EDC-able knife. Now, this right here, I don't know if I could EDC this piece. I've definitely carried it, but for me, this is more of kind of a special occasion knife. And it does, with that... Oh yeah. Now with that larger blade, you're going to get a real thwap in terms of that action. The acoustics are fantastic. This thing is beautiful, guys. So getting into some of the details, this will go for $570 as configured, direct from Chris Reeve Knives. And this thing is absolutely gorgeous. CPM MagnaCut super stainless steel, hardened to in between 63 and 64 HRC, which is going to be the sweet spot for MagnaCut. So this takes advantage of the perfect MagnaCut formula that they have. You have also a hollow grind, beautiful stone washed finish, and then that drop point blade is fantastic. Is just gorgeous. Look at the fine details, the micro beveling. This thing is fantastic. The handle, titanium, glass bead blasted there, so the finish is very clean, very uniform. You can see they have that nice over travel stop. You also are going to get some niceties like phosphor bronze washers that are quite nice and a bit oversized. You're getting a heat treated lock face with a ceramic detent ball, which is also nice. And the action is fantastic. And while closed, you're getting that usefulness in terms of that glass breaker. So very, very handsome. You also do get a bit of milling here for some extra traction, right? If your hands are wet, sweaty, or anything like that, which is very, very nice. Now, in terms of the dimensions, guys, overall, the full length on here is going to be 8.48 inches. And then the blade length itself individually was going to be 3.68 inches, with the closed length being 4.77. The ounces on here in terms of the weight, 5 ounces, which would typically be a heavy knife. But when it's this size, it's actually really, really balanced. Now, if you had a knife this size that weighed 5 ounces, it would be a brick. So something to consider. Also, you probably noticed the action there. Yeah, I can kind of flick this one, but because of the shorter blade, it's just there's not as much kind of force that's working with you, so it's not going to be as snappy. And these are honestly meant to be slow rolled opens, but you can kind of flick them. Here you can flick this one in terms of fidgetability and the smoothness. My goodness. Of course, a lot of it has to do with that weight of that longer blade. And it just, it's that hydraulic glass like smoothness, which is absolutely fantastic. And you can see that, just from flicking it around, it's just a lot of fun, and I love the way it feels. I love the way it sounds. Obviously, I think stylistically, this is just a handsome piece of pocket candy. Some of you are thinking, why would I spend that much on a knife? Some of you are thinking, why would I spend this much on a watch, or X amount on a pen, shoes, a car? Yes, there are utilitarian purposes for everything, and if you're not an enthusiast, it won't make sense. But if you're enthused about cars, about watches, about pocket knives, about pens, then you kind of get it, right? So I'm not going to try to convince anybody why this is a superior functional piece, although in terms of ergonomics in hand, very, very nice. Great grasps here, guys. Check that out. Great reverse. Oof. And if I did get, if for any reason, although I wouldn't ever recommend a folding knife as a combat knife, I would have to say this is up there. Like, I would absolutely still feel good if I had to use this as a weapon of opportunity, versus this is really, again, more of a last resort. I feel like I might even prefer to use a tactical pen over something like this. Go ahead and roast me in the comments. But in terms of, my Marine Corps training and weapons of opportunity, a small folding knife like this isn't the greatest choice. Honestly, this is definitely made to be more utilitarian, especially with this blade shape. That Insingo blade is really meant to be a work EDC knife, versus here, although this is also meant to be a utility knife, I would say because of the profile, because of the additional length, the additional tactile just perfection here, it does give you some options if, things were to hit the fan, that you would be okay to use something like this to protect yourself. But again, I would never recommend a folding knife as, your first line of defense. But hey, if you have it and you need to use it, this is one that you'd probably be better off with. Now, in terms of in-hand ergonomics, great ergonomics, very comfortable in hand, fantastic beveling, guys. Look at the jimping here. Your thumb just locks in for those utility cuts. And then when you look at the finishing here, the tolerances, this is what Chris Reeve Knives is known for. Look at just the little pocketing there for your finger. Very cool. And again, just just beautifully done. Proudly signed, Idaho made, for those of you that do appreciate good American made products. This thing is just divine. Now, it's not a custom knife by any means, but in terms of, a production knife, this is, there's a lot of production knives that have really caught up in terms of tolerances and fit and finish. Some great ones, and it's not just limited to the US, but for me, I absolutely do appreciate the USA build construction, as well as just the lore around Chris Reeve knives as an iconic American-made brand. Yes, Chris Reeve himself is from South Africa, but the brand itself really blew up and created all of this fanfare around it for the US manufacturing, the high level of just tight tolerances. Again, something I appreciate from wristwatches, tight tolerances, right? So yeah, the action here is very snappy. Oops, misfired there. Smooth and fast open with more of a slow close, but still quite smooth. Very, very nice. Now, in pocket, definitely has a full-sized footprint. Let's compare it again to kind of what I prefer for my everyday carry. This is going to be noticeably larger by comparison. Still fits in the pocket. I don't need special pants or anything for it, but I will say that in terms of my preferences, something like this, again, is going to be better for every day. Now, can I carry this for 7 days straight? Sure, I could. But again, my preferences in particular, especially for a folding utility knife, are just going to be on the smaller side. But it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate something like this. Just like I do prefer smaller watches. But you know what? There's something about a purpose-built dive watch that does, it rates a bit of heft. And I think that's the same thing you get here in terms of there's more to love. Now, all of the preciseness and everything that you can appreciate from Chris Reeve knives, you're getting here, and you're getting more of it because there's more steel, there's more titanium, there's just more to go around and more to appreciate and love in terms of these details. And this doesn't have any fancy inlays or anything like that. This is all just a very, very sleek and function forward aesthetic. Now, in terms of, in pocket, another nice thing is that you do have this, deeper carry. I don't want to call it a deep carry because most people think of a hook and a kind of loop over type of setup to where it can sink all the way into your pocket. But I will say for something this long, right, like there's not much pocket for it to go deeper. So something like this, having this amount of purchase so that when you can draw it out, it just makes it a bit easier. So for me, I think that's perfect. Like that's not going to be like unsightly. I mean, if anything, it's a bit of a flex for those of you, who recognize the knife just based off of this much exposure to the scale. Now, in terms of model variants, this is also available with a Tanto blade or with a traditional sandblasted finish for the handle scales. You can mix and match with that as well. Now, in terms of comparable models, many Chris Reeve enthusiasts kind of consider the Zaan their exit knife in a lot of ways, and it kind of feels like that for me. It's one you graduate to after enjoying Sebenzas and maybe Inkosis, right? And whether they be small or the full-size models, this one only comes in a full size. Now, if they made a smaller Zaan, I would absolutely be on board. I would love one that was more comparable to the scale here of my beautiful Sebenza 31, and it might give it a run for its money if they had something like that. But as far as I know, they're not planning to make anything like that. So again, this is definitely more of a dedicated function forward folding knife versus something that is going to be, a kind of a daily carry. This is one you carry with a bit more purpose, or sometimes your purpose can just be you want more capability and ultimately this is going to be a more capable knife because it's quite a bit bigger. Now, for me, guys, the bottom line is, like its more mainstream brother, the Sebenza, the Zaan is also a perfect knife. No, it may not be the most exciting or the absolute best in any particular category, but it is unquestionably excellent in almost every category across the board, and that's something that is very special, and something that, of course, if you're a Chris Reeve knife enthusiast and you love the Sebenza, this is my third small Sebenza. I love these knives, especially with the Insingo blade. This one, I mean, it's pretty perfect for me. MagnaCut, also the beautiful inlay there. It just kind of, it's perfect. Again, this is a knife that really has no flaws in my eyes. No, it's not the most advanced. It's not the most technically savvy or innovative. Same here. You know, again, it's a very simple setup, but there's a beauty in that simplicity, right? It's similar to, hey, why do we love and appreciate the Porsche 911 so much? It's because every 911 looks like a 911. It's small, iterative refinements over time, and that's something that I feel like really shines through in terms of Chris Reeve knives and their overall aesthetic. So, for me, guys, everything it just does so well, to such a high standard of quality that you really can't help but appreciate it. Now, this is not for everybody, like, by any means. Even if you're a knife collector, you might not be into this. You might be into collecting, you know, Spyderco's, Benchmades, maybe even, you know, some overseas produced knives as well, which I have plenty of. But there's something about Chris Reeve knives, their aesthetic, their execution, their just commitment to excellence, their level of iconography. Yes, this is an iconic blade. This is an iconic handle from an iconic brand. There's something about that, right? And it resonates with me in terms of watch collecting as well. Seiko is iconic within the space and the field of dive watches. And for me, again, this is something that speaks to me. Is it more functional or you know, that much more capable than any old dive watch you could pick up? Absolutely not. But it's going to cost multiples and multiples more. Again, more to appeal to the enthusiast. And this is an enthusiast knife. You don't want to start with this, right? Even if you have a good amount of money, guys, and you know, to you, $500 is nothing, I still wouldn't start off with a Zaan. I would say it's good to kind of play the field, understand different kinds of knives, different types of actions, different types of pivots, and everything like that to find something that you really love and resonate with. And there's times, just like with watches, where you can get so focused on the spec sheets and the bullet points that you kind of just want something that has everything, versus wanting something and really understanding the pleasure of having something that it doesn't have everything, but everything it does have is perfect. So that's where I'll leave it here on this one, guys. This has been such a dream to carry, to you know, it's to own it in terms of collecting. I feel great owning a Zaan. It does definitely add, just in the same way that owning a Marine Master, you know, within my watch collection, just adds a little something. And you guys can see here, you know, again, if we line them up more tip to tip, you can see how much of a difference there is there. But we go pivot to pivot, you can see it's incrementally, you know, it's not that outlandish in terms of that, right? Like, depending on how you look at it, it's not like this is a super, for me, again, perfect sized knife for everyday carry. And then this one is just a perfect knife in general. Like, you know, if I was going to get lost in the wilderness, I would rather get lost with this versus this. There's just more blade. There's more purchase on the handle, better ergonomics because it is a larger handle, and it just gives you more options. And overall, it's going to be more robust because it's more material in terms of that frame lock, which is very, very strong. And you guys have seen videos of these getting torture tested. But with all that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's not drop shutty. Sorry. but it has a little snap to it. All right.